seconds. 4 seconds. Good evening, Don McKinnon. Agree to disagree.
John Cockrum, nice to be with you this evening.
And John, you're going to start off with your subject, which is we trade back and forth, and you have.
Yeah, I thought we might start out discussing Obamacare. Obamacare is, as you know, been around now for a period of time. And it's been elevated again because there are various provisions of the program that are expected to go into effect shortly. There's been a lot of debate about Obamacare and what it's going to do. And I think some things are becoming more visible now, Don, that perhaps at the beginning weren't there. You might recall that when they started with Obamacare, they said it wasn't supposed to be a tax on the American people.
I know.
That's what they said.
Well, they
about
start
the
off with a
program.
little humor.
That's
They
right.
like jokes.
Wasn't supposed to be a tax, you know, but then again, when they took it to the Supreme Court, they said the only way that you can put Obamacare in effect is if you call it a tax, because you have the taxing power.
So they okayed it, but they okayed it
So
as
they
a tax.
okayed it as
So
a
they
tax.
could do
and
what they
that's-
wanted to do, but they had to eat their words.
That's
which,
right, that's right. They actually
which-
called it a tax
I know.
so that they could implement the program.
Right.
And then I think you probably remember Nancy Pelosi's famous comment.
She's shy. That Nancy is shy.
Oh, she's very shy, that's
Shy.
right. But when she said, we have to pass this bill
Yes.
in order to see what's in it.
There you go.
When I heard that for the first time, my
They
jaw
passed
dropped.
it, and I haven't seen what's in it yet.
And you imagine that, to see what's in it, and that's
Yeah.
all you hear about. That's been repeated an awful lot.
I do like
Anyway.
her, though. I'm the only one in the town that does. But I do like
You do like it?
I like Nancy.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, the program now has evolved to the point where it's very unpopular, according to the polls.
I would say it would be, but I will get into why it is, which is
Okay,
not
okay.
just to agree to disagree on
I'd
that
be
one.
interested to hear that.
Yeah.
Over 60% of Americans, though, now think that Obamacare will drive insurance costs up. A recent poll also said that less than a third think it will go down, and the remainder didn't know.
Right.
Most forecasts project huge rises in costs under Obamacare, and there's a number of reasons for that. But there were certain parameters or assumptions that were part of the program that were supposed to keep costs down. One big assumption under Obamacare is that young, healthy people will have to buy insurance, and because they need less care, everybody's costs will be reduced. That makes sense, right? That's a centerpiece. In other words, the insurance becomes mandatory. That's what it's all about. And either they buy
But I
the
think young
insurance-
people can get on it for nothing if they're with their family, don't they?
Well, the young,
carry them till
the-
they're
the young-
28?
That's right. That's what's happening now. The young people are already being carried until they're 28 years
So
old.
they're,
Yeah,
they're not going
and
to lower
I'm sorry
anymore.
to say that with my children, I missed out on that by about a year,
Ah,
naturally.
That's not fair, John.
It's not fair, Don. But anyway, that's the way it worked. Surveys indicate,
Tear there,
however,
I see. Okay.
recent surveys indicate that most young people plan to pay the fine, which is far, far less than the insurance. I think I saw some figures where the average insurance bill for a single young person would be in the neighborhood of $3,000, and I think the fine that they have for that, for not buying the insurance is something like $300. So you can see.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, you can see how huge the difference is. So a lot of them are saying they're going to pay the fine. So what happens?
Yeah, but if they pay the fine, does that mean they don't have insurance?
Well, that's an interesting question.
Oh, I guess.
Yes, essentially.
So
I mean,
therefore, they
if
go down to the
review-
Morton Hospital, and
I think there's a difference.
Donnie and John are going to pay
Right,
for them.
Exactly.
What?
I think
Why-
there's a-
where's the
I think
deal
there's
there
a
for
di-
you and me?
Well, that's right. And there's more than that.
Okay.
Now the government, the most recent thing, the reason why this came back to my mind again, I found it kind of interesting, is that they're going to sell the program through professional sports teams. Did you hear about
Sell
that?
it? No.
Yeah.
They're going to
They're
advertise
trying to
it?
get, yes, they're trying to get the NFL and the NBA and baseball and so forth.
The sports should do that because most of them are going to jail, so they have to. So they,
There are a few going to jail. We could
we'll
discuss
talk about
at
that
some point
later.
too. And they're also pushing Obamacare in some schools. They're actually putting together some instruction for the kids so they can go home, I guess, and visit their friends
In
and
the old
relatives.
days, we called that propaganda.
And it probably still is propaganda.
Mm.
The bottom line, when I look at that whole thing, and
Mm.
we've heard so much about it now, is that the Obama plan, I think, was well intentioned. I don't have any doubt about that. But it was poorly conceived. It was unbelievably complex, and it's going to turn out to be incredibly costly. And don't forget, Don, you as a Medicare recipient, and me as a Medicare recipient,
Which is running pretty good.
they took hundreds of millions of dollars out of our Medicare
Well,
to
they
pay
took
for this plan.
for the rich.
To
You're
pay
not,
for this
you're
plan.
not rich. You get the word around
I'm
town.
not rich.
That's the word around
Not-
town.
not at all.
You and I aren't rich.
So I think
Okay.
the bottom line is, the way I feel about it
Yeah.
is, it should be
I've
scrapped.
got mixed feelings about it. First
Yeah.
of all, I agree in a sense that I do not have full knowledge of that insurance plan. I'm not sure
15,000
anybody
pages. You want to
does.
start
Yeah.
reading it tonight?
Yeah, well, if I have trouble going to
15,000
sleep.
pages.
But I'm just saying, so therefore, I'm already saying to you that I'm somewhat limited. But let me just say
Yeah.
that in my youth, I had many jobs. Some might say I couldn't hold a job, but I did have many
They
jobs.
said the same thing about me.
I know that happens. That happens, John.
Yeah.
But in my case, it's true. In your case, you advance. But one of them was rating and statistical on insurance companies. I did do ratings. And I'm a Democrat, but when I hear people say, we're going to insure people that have a health history and your rates are going down, right away, the history of what you and I do now clicks in when we hear these things. Right away I say, no, that can't be. Because if you have previous medical history, that means you're going to have you're a medical risk. Therefore, you're going to cost the insurance, whoever is the carrier, money, because if you've got a problem, you're going to go. And as a rating person, I would say, I hate to be cold about it, I wouldn't take you. But see, the government's saying we're going to take you. Well, that's okay in a fashion if the government chooses to do that. But I'm just saying, don't tell me my rates are going down. You can't have it both
Right.
ways.
No, that's very true.
But let me give you something.
But let me just say,
Okay.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know you do
We
because I'm
agree to
pitching
agree
for
on
you.
that. Yeah.
But let me.
On that provision.
Yeah, but let me give you the why I disagree with you on not having medical insurance throughout the country. I will grant you this. How come people that are so bright, that have these highfalutin degrees, let's say, can't figure out how to do this thing, whereas Medicare seems to be operating in an efficient manner? I don't say they're making money on it, but everybody knows it's efficient. And then how come you can't do it with this other? I don't know. But
Medicare has been around a lot longer, Don. And the fact of
could
the
it be
matter-
that maybe if
The
insurance...
fact of the
yeah.
matter is,
Yeah.
Medicare is headed for bankruptcy too, if we don't do something
Yep.
about it. I
Yep.
mean, when you look at all the people that are retiring now, I just
Yeah.
started collecting Medicare. I'm just a few years younger than you are. You've
You know,
been collecting a few years more. than me.
Everybody's younger than me, John.
But,
That's a
but
nice...
you know, I think you mentioned
Yeah.
a very valid point. And the things I like about Obamacare, there's not many,
Yeah.
but there's a couple. One of them is what you just mentioned. I think that people with previous conditions
Yeah.
need to be covered regardless. There has to be some way to do that. One of the provisions of Obamacare is to do that. The other thing I think that would be grossly unfair is letting insurance companies drop people because they suddenly get sick and they no longer want
That's
to
how
cover
they make
them.
their money.
Now, those are two provisions that I would continue to support, fashioned into a different type of program that wasn't this enormous.
The
I
problem...
mean, this is a government takeover of a private product, insurance. That's what it is.
And the private guy is making money on it, though, John.
The private guys are making money, but you know that varies. Sometimes not as much as you think. Now, I worked in the industry for 10 years,
Yeah.
so you know I've seen them go up and down and so forth.
But let me
There's,
give you
there's waste.
let me
that
give you the
needs to be
key to
addressed.
this situation. Being in government, a government official seems to be selfish to his own end. And I will readily admit I'm selfish to my own end. And even though I've got my selectman hat off for over a year now, that hat is still on there when I think of certain things. I think a certain way. So let me explain to you about a couple of things, health insurance and special needs. Those two things now, Massachusetts excels in. We excel in, and please, people out there, don't get upset. No, I'm not saying don't give you insurance. No, I'm not saying don't care of special needs. But what I am saying is other states don't care about insurance and don't care about special need. Now, let me give you the first one on health insurance. People who go to Florida, it's a majority elderly, and they're told when they go down there, though, that they don't care about health insurance in Florida. You're old, and maybe it's time to put you on a piece of ice and push you out with a cheeseburger sandwich and push you out. So in Florida, they will tell you, if you've got something here, you better go back to Massachusetts. And then special needs. Let's take special needs. Many of these states have no care at all for special needs. Massachusetts under Chapter 766 accelerates on special needs. So here's my selfish way of saying this as far as insurance is concerned. I am for a universal, across 50 states insurance because Massachusetts is paying more than it should pay with its insurance. Now, it came in under a well-meaning Republican. I understand that. He ran for president. He lost. But that was Massachusetts insurance.
Right.
And believe this, there are people who in other states are told, go back home to your home state or move to Massachusetts and you're going to have health insurance. I want the rest of the country to feel our pain. I want them to have insurance also, so when it comes to it, we will care for it. Now, I know there's the $300 buyout, you say, but even that's sort of up in the air, the ball, because companies, one of the problems I find with universal insurance is that there are companies that won't hire because there's a number, I forget what it is, like 19, where you don't have to have insurance offered, but you get 20, you got to have it. So therefore, there are companies that will hire 19, and that's it. So we're supposed to be having people hire more people, but it's to their financial advantage not to have that extra person. So there's catch-22 in
I
this
think
thing.
you're right about the generosity of Massachusetts. I don't think anybody
To a
does
fault.
that. Yeah, to a fault.
Yeah.
There's a term in insurance which you may have heard because you're familiar with a field called adverse selection. And with adverse
We
selection,
used to call them assigned risk, but
yeah,
when I
that's
was
right.
a-
It's basically the same thing. What it means
before computers,
is
they
that,
called
yeah,
it
if you
assigned.
give people a choice,
Yeah.
then the people that really need the insurance are
Yeah.
going to get the insurance.
Absolutely.
And the people that don't need the insurance aren't going to get the insurance. And that's kind of what you're talking about. We want to make sure
Yeah.
that everybody is covered. Now, the Massachusetts plan is different than what they're proposing in Obamacare
Oh,
in a
of
lot
course.
of different
Of course it
respects.
is, sure.
But even here in Massachusetts, the prices are going up. There's no doubt about it. Now, here's another thing, Don, that concerns me a lot about Obamacare. Employers are finding ways to skirt around Obamacare
That's what I think we alluded
by
to that.
bringing people into part-time status such that they won't have to pay for the insurance.
Yeah.
Now think of what that does to the American family. Remember there was a pledge at the beginning by the administration? They said you will not lose your doctor, right? You will not
I've
lose,
lost my doctor.
you will not lose your insurance.
I didn't lose
And
my
in fact, those things are happening.
Yeah.
And also, as I say, it doesn't create a ground for employment when the business, well, employment is still the major problem in this
But
country.
John,
Things have
what we
improved a
are
bit.
proving as a government is
not
though,
enough.
we're not able to function when it comes to complex situations because 99% of industrial nations
Right.
have universal
I
insurance.
know that.
And so therefore you'd say, wait a minute now,
But
how
what-
can they have it and we can't? They somehow or other know what they're doing.
But if you look at examples of that, and then you look at what we
Yeah, I
have
know.
here, we
Yeah,
have
I-
some of the best health care in the world.
I know we do.
Partly because it's still a competitive
Yeah, I
field.
know. I know.
It's not a
Something to be said
socialistic
for
type of program.
That's why this thing took 50 years to get in. I mean, Hillary Clinton tried this
I know she
20
did.
years
She
ago.
failed miserably
And-
and nobody wanted anything to do with it.
That's right.
And the only reason why this passed this time is because nobody read it. They pushed it out there. They came back to vote on it.
Well, you know why?
They didn't even know what
John,
was
there was
in
a
it.
reason for that, and it's very reasonable. They had problems with airplanes taking off so the senators and reps could come home.
That's true.
And therefore, pass that because we want to straighten this out. Isn't it? Now, I know people pick on those people, so we might as well. It's a nice day in the summertime. We might as well do that. Because they can take a transportation problem, which gets them home for the weekend,
Right.
and solve it in a matter of a day.
Yeah.
But any other problem, they can't seem to
No, I
find
know.
a solution to it. They can't agree on anything. But they agreed when it had to do with the United Airline not getting me home to,
Right.
Ipswich, Mass, because there's a cookout there and I've got to get some votes.
That's absolutely
So
true.
anyway,
But,
Well, that's-
I think that what I would say is this.
Yeah.
I would say that because of the complexity, because of the onerousness of the program, because very few people still know what's in it, because the IRS is going to be responsible for monitoring
Yeah.
compliance with it.
and we know them.
We know what's going on with them lately.
Yeah, I know.
And
That's the only company you didn't go to work for.
yeah, that's right. although I actually had a couple of job offers.
Oh, see now?
Yeah.
I know you had office,
At the
but
time.
you didn't. I know.
No,
you
I didn't go to work for them at the time. But if they were to scrap this program, take whatever they did and put it back where it belongs. Now, granted, it hasn't all kicked in yet, so they probably wouldn't have that much difficulty. Put the pieces back the way they were and go to save two pieces that you and I are concerned about.
Yeah.
One, stop dropping people from the program when they get sick. That's absolutely
And don't tell
unfair.
us you're going to lower the rates when you keep them.
Well,
up.
don't tell them.
But
you're
on
gonna-
the other side of the coin, preventative medicine is very important.
Yes, it is.
And I think if you take care of those people in the early stages, then you won't have the massive cost in this, and that's what you're saying.
Totally agree with that. Yeah, I totally agree with that. But and the other one is pre-existing conditions.
But let me,
I mean,
before we get off it, we
it's not
gave it
fair.
a pretty good time, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
here's one of the reasons where people wouldn't be for it. And this is why, and I'll mention
For the
Raynham
Obama
just for
plan?
a minute. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'll just refer to Raynham, who did something exceptional. People they tend not to vote for things they already have.
Yeah.
I've got Medicare,
Right.
you've got Medicare. Why should I be for that? So a lot of the people who are against the massive insurance figure, it's going to cost me tax dollars.
Right.
I already have mine.
Yes, I
So
have
therefore,
mine.
and therefore I'm not going
You
to
go
do
to
it.
the doctor, you
Yeah.
don't pay a copayment.
That's right.
You've got a supplemental
I
plan
also,
with your Medicare.
but with Medicare,
totally covered.
but with Obamacare now, I used to go, and I'll tell you what doctors would do sometimes. You go for a physical, but the doctors will tell me you got a pain in something or other, and therefore they can then put it in, and the government will pay for it. Then your Medicare will pay for it. But I used to go to a doctor. I say he was honest, and I think I am honest. And I would always pay for my own physical because I had nothing wrong with me. It was time for my annual physical. I would pay for it. Now, Obamacare does pay for that physical. Long term, is that a good idea? Well, if you catch something that maybe a person my age wouldn't go for the physical, and I go for the physical and they catch it, then that would be worth your while. So there's an awful lot.
But a lot of people respond to physicals at a time when they're not feeling good for some reason.
Well, and
you
then-
know
yeah.
people, and I've known
Yeah.
people that haven't been to a doctor in 20 years, 25 years.
Yeah, I know.
And then suddenly something hurts.
Yeah.
They figure, well, okay, their family talks them into go seeing the doctor. Now, they probably should have gone before.
Yeah.
Young, healthy people, like we were,
They never
at
go.
one time.
They never went to a doctor.
never went to a doctor. And think about it, Don.
Yeah.
These kids today, what are they trying to do? They're trying to get out of their parents' houses so they could buy
Yeah.
a house or a
On their
condo
own.
or rent
Yeah,
or something. And they're going to shell out another $3,000 to sign up for health insurance that they don't have, like you said, they're
Well, the
gonna live
employers
forever.
don't do it, so it must. I'm not sure how the work out of the 3,000 comes because is it the insurance?
Well,
that's
that was
paid
the number
stri-
that I saw when
I
they were
know, I
comparing
know.
the.
That's what I'm saying about
Yeah.
the 15,000 pages. Why can't we do things simply? I don't
There's a
understand.
lot of lawyers getting rich now because they're the only ones that can figure out the plan. And
That's
they-
the oldest joke in the world.
will be advising
What do
the
they say
clients.
when a ship with 5,000 lawyers goes down? They call that a good beginning. I apologize to attorneys. That's the oldest joke in the world. They tell it on themselves, so,
Yeah.
so I can let them go with that.
So would you like to move on to a
Sure.
topic that you?
Let's go. Well, I
mind?
want to mention before I get on to the topic, in case I forget it.
Yeah.
Wait yesterday, buried today was a gentleman named E. Joseph La Liberty. E. Joseph La Liberty is on the nameplate of the, I'm not sure what they're going to call it, the grammar school. But anyway, it's the school next to the Merrill. It's La Liberty School. This is the middle school, so it's a grammar school, I believe they call it. I would like to see this on his name on this school because, to me, E. Joseph La Liberty came along in the late 50s, 60s. He brought along Chet Millett. He brought along Billy Bruno. He brought along Billy Sullivan, who the name of the school. He brought along a team of people. Most of them came from Mansfield, interestingly enough. And he brought along a team with him. And he structured, I've said in other shows that there are fathers of Raynham into the century. And it would have been the Walter O'Briens and the Al Porters and the Ed Murby, Ted Janis, and people of that nature. And E. Joseph La Liberty, I always said, if he wasn't a superintendent of schools, he'd have been the chief executive officer of a Fortune 500 company, because he structured education in such a way. When 766 came in and it became a costly thing to do, Joe said, I've done that. He did that already. He was always ahead of his time. He was a person who launched Raynham, and when you watch Raynham going from 3,000 to 6,000 to now 13,000, many people moved to Raynham because of what they said, education. And E. Joseph La Liberty was the guy that spirited this. He was the guy that, it was one of the reasons I fought so hard to keep the K-8 separate from the total regionalization.
Yes, I know you did.
And I did that because of people like E. Joseph La Liberty, because Joseph had such a structure. Yeah. And I will just go into education just in a little bit. I can go all day, but there was a person who was in charge with coordinating both Bridgewater and Raynham K-8 when we first merged, and that individual came to me and said, I was given this because I teach in Raynham and I live in Bridgewater, and I've got the degrees to back up I could do it, and I tried for 10 years. Donald, they're still as different as the day I took over. There's something about systems that get parochial. The kids from Bridgewater were excellent at math, but the kids in Raynham were excellent at English. I'm mixing here, but I'm just saying, E. Joseph La Liberty was a guy that could bring you a product, and you were proud of that product. When those kids got out of grade 8, my son took music lessons down to guitars when he was in, he's now 50, so it gives you an idea. But the guy teaching guitar said, how come you already know the scale? Oh, Mrs. Hill had a flutophone or something. I forget what it was, someone will correct me. But Mrs. Hill took us and taught us the scales, and they don't do these things anymore. Yeah. They spend 10 times as much, and they don't do what they used to do. So I would just like for people in Raynham out there to know that the passing of E. Joseph La Liberty, if there is such a thing as a legend in the town of Raynham, Joe has to be in the top 5, if not the #1 guy.
That's a good testimonial, too.
You know, because I've always said, if a superintendent's a good superintendent, he's probably the best politician in town. Joe could pretty well, I kid him once in a while on this, he'd say, my school committee. I said, oh, Joe, well, you got a gift. What did they deliver it to your door? My school committee, But that's the way it was with Joe. Yeah. He ran it. And the school committee wanted to be run by Joe. It was anyway, Joe will be missed. And God bless him in heaven. Yeah. Well, I'll go on now to the looking over what just happened a week or so ago on the campaign and on the results. Okay. And what are your thoughts on that, John?
Well, to be honest with you, Don, and we did discuss the campaign earlier, I think that the state of Massachusetts missed an opportunity to send another bright young man with fresh ideas to Congress. It wasn't as wide as some people had predicted.
No, it was closer, as a matter. Yeah. It wasn't hairline, but it was closer.
Given the support that the victor had, I thought that my candidate did pretty well there.
Well, Mr. Gomez won in Raynham.
Yes.
But that's not unheard of for a conservative to win in Raynham.
There's a lot of smart people in Raynham.
Well, they're conservative. But see, what he...
You said that.
Well, they are conservative.
Yeah.
and I'm conservative.
Yeah.
You know, I'm conservative at a local level, and people know this. But see, then get at a national level, and maybe that's where we agree to disagree. And that's, oh, how can I wear two hats? Well, it's another story. I think the vote went around 57-43. I'll
Yeah,
say
I
that,
think
and
that's-
maybe that's not true. I know it wasn't what I call the true victory is 60-40. You get 60-40, you got a true. Otherwise, one vote's as
Was
good
it
as the-
57?
In around there, in around
Yeah,
there.
I thought it was a little narrower than that, but you're probably
Could have
right.
been, could have been.
Yeah.
But let me just say, there's two things that did them in Massachusetts, because people get mad at Massachusetts,
Yeah.
yet they do move here, don't they? Even when people moved up to New Hampshire from Massachusetts to get away from us liberal ways, and all of a sudden they
And taxes.
and they said, well, wait a minute now. Where's the school bus, Johnny? Johnny has to get to. Oh, we don't, get him yourself there. Maybe put him in a wheelbarrow. Get him down to the school. And what about a fire station? Fire station? We have a county fire station. Oh, we get there in about 20, 30 minutes, something like that. Oh, we want a fire. And the people in New Hampshire hate it when Massachusetts people move there,
Yeah.
because they move to get away from the amenities they have, and then they get up
They
there and they want
expect
the
it too
amenities.
much, yeah.
That's for another story. But the things that Massachusetts is almost, why did you say that? And that's the other section of the show we like to do. What was he thinking?
Yeah.
Guns. It boggles my mind why people have to have repeat rifles. I don't know what else to call them, John.
Do you want to go there now?
Well, no. But I just want to get a shot to say
Yeah.
people in Massachusetts don't understand why people want rifles that shoot multiple bullets in a short of time, so that if you shoot a deer, you don't have to worry about putting his head up on the wall. His head is gone because it's blown away. So, but he couldn't bend on guns, and you say, we can some night when it's a quiet night, but we got plenty. But yeah, we can go on about guns.
That could be.
But those are the things
that could be a full show discussion.
But what did kill him? I'm telling you, the two things that I'm looking at these numbers, I'm thinking to myself, hey, if this guy had modified guns and women's rights, now I don't care what you want to call it, Markey has all the women groups with him. And therefore, women are looking at this and they are so tired.
Because of the abortion issue.
Yeah, the abortion is an issue, but abortion is a flag issue to say, and this is where men don't get it. They treat women like, when I grew up, you were an airline hostess, you were a teacher, you were a waitress, you were a telephone operator, and that's pretty much it till the war. So, and there are guys around who think pretty much that same way. We'll let you know when you can have additional rights. Where do guys get off? I don't understand where they get off, John. Yeah. But I'm just saying, this guy...
You're really floating over so many issues here right now when you're talking like that. If you have women's rights and you have gun control, those are big discussions.
I understand
both of them.
I wanted that. But see, the macho guys, that's what I'm saying, the macho guys try to tell women, and in more...
How many macho guys are left?
How many macho guys think they're macho guys?
Well, that's true.
That's another story.
But how many macho guys are left?
You see, the old thing
we
is,
live in a new age.
I used to think of it when I coached Little League, and the guys are there. I gotta get it, Johnny, and the whole thing. I'm looking. I'm saying, you let the ball go through your legs when you were a little guy. They're what you call the wannabes, the guys that could never do it themselves.
Yeah.
Yet Johnny has to pitch as fast as 100 miles an hour. Johnny has to run like a deer.
You have to use Johnny.
And they never did.
You can't use
Well,
Joe.
that's they do that with the men's room, and I don't think they should call it a John. So I take offense, and I'm with you on that one, John.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Well, I appreciate that.
It's not
I'll
a Donnie.
sleep better tonight now that I know you feel
No, but
that
I'm
way.
saying he took two issues, and the other is, of course, the one on lobbyist.
Yeah.
I agree with him on it, but I'm saying he said, I'm not a politician. Then he said what people like John Cochran wants to hear. I'm going to go to Washington, and we're going to have repeat rifles firing off in the night. We're going to have women, they're going to have to know their place. And then we're going to have, we're going to know more lobbying afterwards, which every guy he talks to now, including Republicans, and that's why they didn't come to this state, and that's why they didn't send him any money. I'm saying this guy did terrific. considering the Republicans didn't like him at a national level. He was too big for his britches, is the way we used to say it when we were a boy.
Well, you know, I think that he accomplished so much in his life.
Well,
You
he
know,
has personally, and he
yes,
should,
I said
and he
it
should
last
sit in
time,
his
but
$1 million
those are the
house and
kinds of
enjoy it.
values that
Yeah.
he can project onto anything that he's dealing with. Let me just say two things about guns really quick.
Okay.
Because
Real quick
I
now.
know you and I are going to discuss this
29.48.
in more detail later. But there's two things about guns that first of all, you know that I was a police officer many
Right.
years ago.
And I used to
al-
carry, I
and
used to
also I
fire
grew up-
50,
I grew
I used
up
to
on a
fire
farm.
50 caliber machine guns.
Yeah, okay.
So I think
Yeah,
I know
well,
what
you don't want too many people running around with those right now. I would agree with that. But
well,
and
I
I
don't know
don't,
if you have one,
I
why
don't
not
think
the
there's
other?
too many people that would support that kind of thing. But you know, you also know that I grew up on a farm, so I did a lot of hunting and fishing when I was a boy.
yes.
You know, my first shotgun I got when I was 15 years old, and it was when I put the stock on the ground, the barrel up in the air, it crossed right over my head. We were the same height. I was holding it this way.
You fire
Now,
it off and it's
Yeah,
part
and then
of your hair.
obviously I grew up with the guns and I love
Yeah,
the guns.
no,
so let me
I-
say
I
two
can-
things.
I understand people like you.
Most people that are anti-gun because they've never even held a gun, much less fired a gun. That's most people, Don. That's number one. They look at it as a weapon of destruction. They don't look at it as either a sports type activity or, even more important in my eyes, and I'll explain this in a minute. Not that I want to carry on, but I'll explain it in a
Whoa,
minute.
we gotta be careful.
Defense.
We'll give it to 26.
Defense, okay?
Defense of what?
Defense of your household.
Oh,
and
your
your
house.
family.
Okay. You mean like the guys that shot their wives?
No, not
No, not that.
the
No, I'm
people that
sorry. I
shot
didn't
their
mean.
wives.
I didn't say.
Yeah. But look at the women. Not too long ago, there was actually a woman on TV who actually blasted a guy who came in and tried to harm her and her child. So you can put that both ways. But here's what I think
I know,
about it.
yeah.
You know, you have an obligation to protect your family. You have an obligation. Now, people can call 911. But do you know how seldom the police actually get there on time to stop a perpetration? It's not their
Apologies
fault.
to the Raynham Police
Yeah,
Department.
no, and that's, it often doesn't happen. They don't
Yeah.
get there on time. So the first line of defense is you, and you have a right to protect your home. Now, let's talk about the
A shootout, you
application.
mean? Now,
Talk
where do
about
you
the
put
application for it.
this gun, John, in the house?
You put it in a locked compartment.
You know, when the guy starts to break into the house, you have to go and unlock the compartment.
No, not really.
No. It's
See, that's
under
what
the
I
pillow?
mean. They have units which are available that lock that you can get into in less than 10 seconds.
Ah.
You don't even need a key.
Is it in the bedroom or is it in the
combination.
living room
It's
or
a
is it in the TV
combination.
room? Where is it?
It's a combination.
Okay.
Well, I can't tell you where I have mine. That's my discretion. And I was
you
really,
mean you got one?
I
You
was-
got one in a lockbox?
I was really upset.
Wow.
I was really upset
Yeah.
when that newspaper published
Yeah.
all of the people and where they lived, the people that had guns. That to me was an invasion of privacy. Number two,
I agree.
was dangerous
Did they,
for those
was that a
people.
local paper did that?
No, that was way out in another state.
Oh, okay.
But they had a lot of controversy at the time because that could trigger two things. Number one, people
Yeah.
would say, "Oh, they know you got a gun. They're not going to go in there and they're not going to try to
Well,
rob
we
you."
agree to agree on
But
that.
the
I
other,
agree with
the
you
other
on
one
that.
is saying, "Oh, they got
Yeah.
a gun. I want
Yeah.
that gun."
Yeah.
They can go and try to
Yeah.
steal the gun.
Yeah.
But anyway, let me get to this application thing because I think that's important too. What criminal do you think would sign up to buy a gun legally?
Well,
I
they
can't think of
wouldn't
too
get it
many.
legally. We hope.
No,
Yeah.
no,
So
that's
no.
exactly right. But they get them.
Yeah.
Even if they were disallowed them. Now, what kind of person would go in and sign an application to do it legally? The people that have no intention of committing a
Yeah,
crime.
yeah.
You're loading the deck against the people that are law-abiding citizens. Now, let's talk about this
Now you
clip.
guarding your home with a repeat rifle?
Let's talk about this clip business,
Hmm.
okay? Well, what do you mean by repeat?
I don't know. You tell me what you
All
mean
right.
by repeat. What do I mean? I don't know.
What do you mean by repeat?
I mean several.
That's another
bullets.
misnomer.
Okay, it doesn't do that.
There's an automatic,
Hmm.
there's a semi-automatic.
Yeah.
There's a single shot. An automatic, you pull the trigger and it sprays as many bullets as it can while you have the trigger depressed. A semi-automatic
Do you want that in the
will
house?
fire consecutive shots.
Do you want that in the house?
I don't think it's necessary to have automatic weapons, and we already have a law against automatic weapons. I don't have a problem with that. A semi-automatic is one that will fire as often as you can pull the trigger. A single shot, obviously, is one that you have to reload every time you fire a shot. Now, they're complaining about clips. You know, the New York had 7 bullets to a clip. They want no more than 7. They want no more than 9. A lot of semi-automatic pistols come with 12 shots, 14 shots, etc. You don't want to be at a disadvantage if somebody's trying to come in and harm your family because you run out of bullets. That's for damn sure. Now, this idea about limiting the clips, let's say 7 clips. I could take a semi-automatic handgun with a 7-shot clip, and I could unload that thing in a few seconds, fire 7 shots, grab another clip and slip it right, shoot that one out, grab another one, put it in there in less than 2 seconds. Now I've got 14 shots. What's the big deal about saying your shots should be limited to 7?
Well, John,
again, are the criminals going to concern themselves about that? I think not. And maybe we shouldn't go any further because we're going to give up another show.
Well, but I'm saying,
Go ahead. I'll
well,
allow
no,
you
but
to
I'm
respond.
saying is, what's in people's minds,
Yeah.
yours and mine, is locked. And so therefore, this guy, though, I'm trying to explain why he lost a lot of votes. Massachusetts, the majority of the people are not for guns. When I say guns, you
I know they're not.
I don't want to get you going again. But when I say guns, I'm just saying they're not for guns. So the guy is spewing out something that people don't want to hear, and then the women are hearing things from him they don't want to hear. And I will congratulate him for getting 43 or 45 or 46, whatever he got. He did very well for telling people what they
Don.
don't want to hear.
Don, no pun intended.
Yeah.
He stuck to his guns.
Ah, and it didn't backfire. Well, it didn't backfire. No, I'm saying he did very well
Yeah.
for having those things.
Yeah. Well, those
But-
are obviously those are popular.
But let me tell you
conservative notions.
where he became hypocritical.
Yeah.
He said that he was not a politician. You know, if you want a you haven't got me. And then he gave 3 things that isn't going to happen, and he claims, I'm going to go to Washington, and he came close to saying, I'm going to make them happen. He couldn't even get anybody but poor old John McCain, who was on his way to Syria, to come in and pitch
That's
for
right.
him. And because they're looking at him and saying, he's going to go and he's going to tell them term limits. He's going to tell them don't lobby afterwards, which is how they make their living afterwards. And if you don't balance the budget, Buster, you may think you're a big deal because you're a Navy SEAL, but you're not telling me to come home with no money in my pocket. And so he gave them 3 things that he said was going to happen. He basically implied they were going to happen, which means he played to those people. Well, meaning though, we who are against the gun and we are for, okay, we got ours, you guys got yours, and so he played to you people. He conned you into thinking that was actually going to happen. When in fact, when his plane landed, if he won, they would have
Don.
looked at him and said,
I agreed with a lot of his positions. Not all of them.
yeah.
There are a few positions that Markey has that I agree with. I mean, we're all individuals, and we all have our own opinions on things. There's no way that I thought he was going to go to Washington and immediately get term limits. There's no way that I thought he was going to go to Washington necessarily and say, if you don't balance the budget,
Yeah.
we're all going to get our raises
That's
cut.
right.
But ask most Americans if that wouldn't be exciting, just the notion of it and having the discussion about it, to get these lazy people that make these decisions now, give them a little discipline and let them
John,
get back to
that
where
would
they're
mean you want to
supposed
be patronized. That would mean you want to be patronized. You want guys to tell you things they can't do, but they'll go to Washington
No,
and they won't do what they
I
told
didn't.
you they're going to do, and you're going to say,
Any
wouldn't it be
move-
nice to see them go to
Any
Washington?
move in that direction would not be a bad idea, even if you can't accomplish it. Like I say, get the discussion going.
Okay, you want
Okay.
a guy that can't do what he wants to do. Now,
No.
where is he? Now, here's the other question I had, though, John. And this
Yeah.
is a good one. What's the future for this? By the way, I've never said SEAL, military man, self-made millionaire, person who didn't speak English in the early years and all, and got a beautiful bride and 2 or 3 wonderful children. I've never said he's anything but a piece of gold for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. He's great. Where's he going to go now, John? What do you think? I've got a thing here. Never mind. Don't look over.
Oh, you have his destiny down
Yes,
there?
I do, John, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. How can I compete with that?
I did with Chris Christie.
Why
I
don't
said
you-
lose 100 pounds and run
Why
for
don't
president.
you go ahead and read his destiny? I'll tell you how I feel about
Okay,
it.
Lieutenant Governor.
Maybe.
You were ready to say no.
No, I wasn't.
No,
No,
okay.
maybe that wouldn't be bad. That would not be bad.
Because
and we also we've
I
had,
think he'd help
we've had
the ticket.
conservatives in those positions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wish, of course, the lieutenant governors did a little bit more than lieutenant governors do, and that would be kind of
Yeah.
nice, because they're kind of like, what did they say? I apologize to people, but there was a Texas guy that stepped out from Franklin Delano
They're kind
Roosevelt.
of like vice presidents, right?
That's what I'm saying. There was a guy that stepped out from Franklin Roosevelt, and he said something very unkind.
Yeah.
But people from Texas sometimes want something like that. Oh, and he said, to be a vice president, there isn't much you can do.
Well, anyway.
I would say Markey. Let me talk about Markey.
All right, go ahead.
Well, yeah, well, good. But Markey, I would say, I got to be honest, because I was for Lynch, and I considered Markey a dull candidate. But I will say that probably people sat down in a crowded room and say, Ed, you want to win? Be dull. So I would say he was successful in saying nothing, because, there was a guy, I think he was a Republican,
It wasn't
who
this
said,
David and Goliath.
no, but he said,
I mean-
no, because he had as did Coakley, he had the votes in his pocket. And
Right,
she,
absolutely.
and she not only went dull, but then she went stupid. And so she cost herself the election herself. Not that Brown didn't earn a victory, he did. But she dumbed herself out of it because she had the votes in her pocket, and she ended up acting like she was going to be a coronation queen for a day. And so now she wants to be governor, I hear. And by the way, she's an excellent attorney general. I'm going to give you one that I know you know, Peter's Principle.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter's Principle is man rises to the level of
Right,
his
of his
incompetency.
incompetence,
And that seems to be the way it is with some people. They cannot
That's
be.
true.
They do very well.
Yeah.
There's a couple of people in politics. Galvin, I think, is one of them. That's very good at what he is, and he'd kind of like to be governor, but he kind of knows. People say, "You're doing very well. We will be satisfied. We will." And the other guy was Tim Cahill. What was he thinking going for governor?
Yeah.
He had it he had a job for the rest of his life, and he walked away from it. I don't
And
know what
there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing
no.
wrong with rising to your level of incompetence unless you exceed that level and you're
Well,
incompetent.
Well,
That's
unless you
wrong.
got power and you're incompetent.
But, I remember working for organizations which expected you to advance to a certain point. If you didn't advance to that
The
point...
military's that way.
Yeah, the military's that way and the government's that way in a lot of
Yeah,
areas.
yeah.
But the government also tolerates if somebody's good in their position, letting them do their work in that position. Beats trying to train somebody new.
Yeah.
Not everybody can
What was
be
that? There was a
president.
prize fighter that just retired. I mean, he just couldn't get voted out. I forget what it's Danucci or something.
Oh, yeah.
He couldn't he couldn't lose, so he finally decided to stay home.
Right.
And but I mean, he was solid in his position.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing about management. Of course, a lot of people understand I do talk too much about management, but that's what I think
But you
it's all
taught
about.
management.
Yeah, and I
In
also
school.
did a little management in my day.
That's very good.
But I would say that if you can delegate and then let people go,
Yeah.
that's gold.
People have different management styles. You have the
Yeah.
hands-on style,
Yeah.
you have the delegation
Yeah.
style, et cetera. Sometimes it works depending
Well,
on what you do overall.
No disrespect to engineers because they start at 100,000. Who's criticizing that?
Exactly.
But they
That's not
don't.
bad.
They are so hands-on
Yeah.
that they have trouble
They
delegating.
can't see the forest for the trees
Jimmy
either.
Carter was the classic example
Yeah.
of the engineer that had to see how the light bulb was made.
Well, he ate too many peanuts, though. So
They made money on the farm. You know farms, John.
I do
won't-
know farms.
I won't talk farms. Okay,
Well-
shall we go a little more on these
Yeah.
guys, or shall we let them put them out to sea?
Do you want to talk a little bit about drones, or do you want to wait on that?
Who?
Drones.
Oh, sure.
Flying
Yeah.
drones.
Sure. Yeah,
you
drones
like that?
Sure, I love drones.
Okay.
So my best friends are
background.
drones. Yeah.
Little background.
Yeah.
So I look at the drones program, and I know you're familiar with that and what's been going on and so forth, and I
Yeah.
wonder to myself, I have to wonder, Don, I have to say, is this another blow to American privacy? You know, we've had lately the issues with the IRS targeting conservative groups.
Yeah.
We've had issues with the Associated Press and the Attorney General's office, you know, looking at reporters from the Associated Press. Now we have, we had the NSA debacle there, where this kid now spilled the beans that the NSA's been looking at our phone calls, our internet sites, visit,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
So this whole thing smacks of a nanny state, smacks of approaching totalitarianism.
Yeah.
And so you say, is this another blow to American privacy? Now, recently, and I'm talking within the last couple of months, the FAA Reauthorization Act was passed by Congress, which in part authorizes surveillance drones over the United States.
Looking in my backyard and yours.
Well, that's right. And the question is, how much are they going to do that? Now, there are projections, and when I heard this, I said, what? There are projections showing that there's going to be 30,000 drones
Wow.
in the nation's skies by 2020. Now, hopefully, and
30,000 in the United States or throughout the world?
in the United States,
30,000.
30,000.
Wow.
And they have some very good uses, and I'll get to that in just a
Weather,
minute.
maybe?
But what are we giving up in return? So that's by 2020. Now there's all kinds of drones. There's attack drones, and there's surveillance drones.
Yes.
I don't think anybody's talking about putting attack drones in the United States, but surveillance drones. Attack drones are being used right now in Afghanistan. You know, other
Are you
places.
for those, by the way?
What, drones?
Attack drones.
In foreign countries? Sure.
Okay.
I think it's an excellent way of getting the enemy, weeding them out, and
Because
hitting them.
that's something which
I
I
am,
think this country's done very well by that.
yes, I am very happy that they do that. Now, some drones are as small as a model airplane. Remember
I know that, yeah.
Remember when you used to make those planes with
Yeah.
a glue,
Yeah.
and you
They
made a
do
lot of
everything.
them?
They do everything but fly.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Some are as small as that, and others have the wingspan of a full-size jet.
Wow.
If you can believe that.
Wow.
Now, this was interesting. I read this on the net as I was researching this stuff.
Yeah.
A tiny drone called a nano hummingbird, that's the name of the drone, can hover,
Like a helicopter.
yes, fly sideways,
Oh.
backwards, and forwards. It has a wingspan of about 6.5 inches and weighs less than a AA battery.
Wow.
So when
And
you
what are we
go,
going to do with that? Then?
well, that's an interesting question. I mean, it's a surveillance drone. Now you go out into your yard tomorrow, and you take a second look at that dragonfly that's sitting
that could be
on
a
your
fly.
flower.
That could be a fly. Yeah.
You never know. Okay.
There'd be no need to spray that.
Yeah. No need at all.
No, let's just paint.
Since it's unmanned, though, you don't have to worry about killing anybody if you do spray it. Some drones can hover over an area for 24 hours.
Wow. And
and
what are
can-
they doing?
And it can
hovering?
include night vision cameras.
Oh.
These things can actually see at night. Now, I read this and I
But
said,
what are they doing hovering over Donnie McKinnon's house?
well, let me get to that.
Uh-oh.
You know, hopefully you're not going to see one over Donnie McKinnon's house
No.
for a little while. New technology is being worked on that.
For a while? What do
Yeah.
you mean there's going to come a time, John, when you're
Well,
going to okay it?
You know, I'm all for the slippery slope
This could
concept.
be-
I really am. New technology is being worked on right now, Don, that will allow drones to see through walls.
Wow.
Think about that for a second. Now, you've probably seen TV shows or movies, you know, where they actually
Yeah.
can see through. Well, it's
Used to be
big.
the shadow
Yeah.
nose when I was a
So
boy.
in just a few years, the skies over the United States will be filled with thousands of drones
Wow.
doing a variety of tasks like, and I think you and I will agree on a few of these, border security, great
Fine.
idea,
Super.
great idea. Disaster relief, great idea. Find these people that are
I
lost.
think we're going to
in
get
the-
to something we're not for, though, John, right?
Yeah, well, we will. Search and rescue,
Very important.
very, very important. Counterterrorism, fine,
Like that.
okay. and looking down on people in streets on behalf of police departments. You know?
You know, John, we have things like that with the questions the selectmen had one time about putting a camera up where there's a light,
That's fine.
and if they catch them going through a red light,
You know what?
they
A
take
lot
their
of
plate.
communities have that.
Yeah.
I don't have any issue with that, but you know what? That camera doesn't fly. It doesn't cover the whole community,
But
and
wha-
it doesn't go
But
wherever.
if it's police work, what
it
kind
wants
of
to
police
go.
work do you think it's trying to do, or what shouldn't it do?
I have no idea.
No.
I'm just raising the issue
Yeah.
right now because I know,
Yeah.
as you did before, you're
Yeah.
going to come up with the answer for this.
Well, I've thank you
have
very
no
much.
doubt about it.
I've done that.
So I think I said, as Americans, we need
Yeah.
to make sure that our congressional leaders ensure that these programs do not violate our Fourth Amendment rights. Here we go again with the Fourth Amendment rights. What is it about search and seizures that
Yeah.
people don't understand? Against unlawful search and seizure with the proper checks and balances. That's kind of the way I look
This
at
is
it.
the big brother. I know. I don't know, John.
Well, what do you think about the
um,
Big Brother? I mean, the Big Brother, I've never seen the Big Brother grow so much in such a short period of time.
That's because of technology, of what they
Well,
can do
that's,
now.
I know, that's a little scary though, isn't
yeah.
it? We have
But
to
I don't know
control it.
exactly what these guys are doing in their little plane over
There's
my
gonna be
house.
commercial drones too.
Yeah.
Now, remember, these aren't all controlled by the government. There's gonna be commercial drones. Where are they gonna go? You know, does this,
Well, we know that industry,
Does this
if there's
mean
a
they-
marketing for it, they'll make it. If they build it, you will
and
come.
they're cheap,
Yeah.
they're cheap,
Isn't
Don,
that
and
something?
they're getting cheaper.
Wow.
Well, all I gotta do is fly,
Yeah.
essentially. Right, with remote control.
Yeah.
And all that, but don't you find that a little
I,
strange?
of course, I think every American finds things like that, including foreign
Yeah.
countries. It is funny when this young man how he got away with that. There should be some people laid off for how he got that information, because he was low level. That has that information. He's now in Russia. He went to Hong Kong. He's now in Russia, and but you look at a thing like that, and you
That's
say,
Snowden you're talking about,
yeah,
spill the beans
and,
for
and,
the-
what, and what some of these other
on the
I,
NSA.
I just think it's funny
Well,
to
yeah,
watch
I'm
these
glad
other
you-
countries say, "Wait a minute,
I'm
now
glad
you
you
shouldn't
brought
be
that
looking
up.
into that."
I'm glad you
because
brought that
they're
up.
looking into us, we're looking into them, and they know that.
You
and
know
why
what?
don't they keep their mouth
I
shut?
am glad you brought
Yeah.
that up because I'm very disturbed about that as well. First of all, Snowden breaking it to the American people
Yeah.
that the government was keeping tabs on us and surveilling us. I thought that was a very brave thing for him to do,
Mm-hmm.
and if it all ended there, I would have said to myself, well, the guy came forward
Never does,
in
though,
good
John, does it?
conscience, but
Never
then he
does.
flew to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Now, Hong Kong, okay, now granted, China says what goes on in Hong Kong. The United States demanded to have him
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Did they send him back? No, they came up with some ridiculous story.
They didn't
about
fill the
what-
form out
We
right.
didn't. Yeah, we didn't have the paper.
And we know that's not so.
We know that's not true. Now he gets into Russia,
Yeah.
right? Putin says now when he's in Russia that they can't arrest him anyway because he's supposedly in this neutral ground. I didn't know Sweden was in Russia, but he's
Has
in
a lot of things in Russia.
yeah.
And this is
But I don't
Sweden.
know if you heard the latest, but here's what he said.
No,
He was trying to get in.
Who's this, Putin?
Yeah, he was trying to get into Venezuela.
Yeah.
In Venezuela, backward country Venezuela is yanking the United States around.
Yeah.
Even Joe Biden
Yeah.
tried to get Venezuela to turn him over. He said no. He
Yeah.
says we're going to find out what's going
Yeah.
on. Well,
Yeah.
Putin has said
They're
no.
having fun with us.
Putin says he will keep him in Russia if, and you figure this out,
Yeah.
if he stops giving away secrets. Now, do you think Putin is being sincere when he says if he stops giving
Well,
away
you know,
secrets, we'll keep him
sometimes,
in Russia?
John,
That's what they're saying.
we don't think dictators have a sense of humor, because they're cold,
Yeah.
But I think Putin, he's a dangerous, dangerous man.
He-
Somebody criticized. 4 young ladies
mentioned Macho
criticized him
Man.
in a song,
Yeah.
and 2 of them are in jail,
Right.
away for years. 2 of them are in hiding, and because they said something funny about Putin, he's not a man to be
No,
messed
he's
with.
not. But you mentioned Macho Man a little
Yeah.
while ago. Now, that
He's a
man,
macho man.
He's a macho man. I mean,
Yeah.
have you seen him riding his horse there,
Yeah.
bare-chested, like
Yeah.
he was one of the Gauls from the ancient wars?
He's a-
or
he's a
whatever?
wannabe.
He's a tough guy.
He is tough.
Very,
That's
very
right.
tough.
But I'm saying I'm saying that he has a sense of humor. he's laughing at us. You see, this is funny to him because here we are preaching to him.
Yeah.
See, his problem is that he does not grant freedom. Russia is getting very close to the way it was under Stalin. And,
Well, that's what he wants.
and that's where he is in his world. And so what I'm saying, here he is. He's not a nice man. He's a powerful man.
Yeah.
And he's got this funny little guy in a hotel room somewhere in
he's-
Russia. And he's
He's
looking.
at the airport, I think.
Yeah, well, he doesn't know where he is. Well, he knows where
Going
he
to
is.
the
yeah.
fast food restaurant.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And all of a sudden he realizes, why did I pick Russia? Because this guy Putin, this guy's a wacko, you know. and I'm being kept by this guy that's wacky. And he's even got the ring from the Patriots.
that was
he won't
great.
he won't give you back
that
nothing.
was a great
Oh,
story.
he's not to be fooled with, Putin. When he gets a ring, he wants
I
a
wonder
ring.
how many people aren't aware of that.
Oh.
One time when who was it? It was the
The owner
manager.
of the Patriots,
Yes, Bob Kraft.
Bob Kraft.
For some reason, he visited them over there.
Well, no, I think that Putin was a guest at something, and he had the
Yeah.
ring on. He said, "Oh, look at
Yeah,
that." He said,
Putin
"Oh,
was. Yeah, and he gave Putin the ring to look at it.
Yeah.
And Putin put it in his pocket and walked away.
that's right."
$25,000 ring, I think it was.
And Putin now claims he's going to give him one more valuable, $50,000, just to shut him up.
Good. We'll wait.
But anyway, to get into this guy should have been arrested immediately. You know, how did he get from point A to B? How did he get on a plane to go to Hong Kong anyway? You know, so somebody's, you know, there should have been-
I think if he simply got arrested when he revealed what the NSA was doing,
Yeah.
because it involved the American people
Yeah.
and the possibility of surveillance,
Yeah.
that a
Yeah.
lot of citizens would have been outraged.
He was a whistleblower, and then
But
he
he blew it.
became a traitor.
Yeah.
He's basically
They
on a
say he
traitor.
knows a lot of secrets. Now, that's
Well-
another thing. This is a contractor.
But you got to remember that, to me, in my world, once you start to give away people that are undercover, and their life, therefore, is
If
at
that's
risk,
what he's doing.
you become then, there's only one thing in my world to call you. You're a traitor.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And being a traitor,
If he's doing that.
if he's, well, see, I'm not sure.
We don't know
see,
exactly
I don't
what
think
he's
he's
doing
quite
along
as
those
bright as he's making himself out to be. And he may get, you know, so I will use the word loosely, but drunk with power to the point where he has nothing else in his pocket, so he starts to give away those things.
Yeah.
That's the problem the country has, and that's why Putin probably is playing games with him, but he's being careful with him too,
Oh, yeah.
because it could go the other way.
I think Putin has no problem just keeping him there. This whole thing about as long as he doesn't give away any more secrets, he must think we're stupid. We're supposed to believe that from Putin. That's like
I'm telling you, he's got
here
a
I
sense of
am,
humor for a
you
dictator.
know. No, I don't have a gun on me.
Yeah,
You know, let me
yeah.
in. I mean, why should you believe that? But in any event,
Hitler didn't have a sense of humor, but I think
did?
Hitler did not have a sense
I
of
don't think he
humor.
ever did. He ever smile?
No,
Ever?
no,
All right.
no.
I got a question for you.
Okay,
Have you been to the Brockton Fair?
no, not in 50 years. No,
Do you ever go to the Brockton
no,
Fair?
never go to the Brockton Fair.
You know, I haven't been to the Brockton
it's kind of a
Fair.
circus.
I keep, yeah, well, I keep a carnival. I keep thinking that I want to
that
go.
came to Raynham for a while
Yeah,
because they had trouble up there in Brockton.
I keep thinking I want to go because I remember as a kid
Yeah,
how excited I was and how
Yeah.
much I loved it.
Yeah.
And then when I got in there, this was
yeah, it
Carnival,
was very commercial.
Constable Fair. Remember that? I
People
grew
are
up
not
as a kid.
exactly.
No, that's true. But when you were a kid, all you wanted
Yeah.
to do was get
Oh,
on
a
the-
kid I would.
rode on the worst rides
Yeah.
that I could think of. Do you remember something called the Whips?
I remember it.
It was a ride. It had like
Snapped.
4 arms on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Had cubicles on the
Yeah,
ends of each
yeah,
arm,
yeah.
and they also had something called the bullet. Do you remember that?
No,
Everybody was afraid of
no.
the bullet.
I
The
do
bullet
remember the
was
bumping cars.
yeah, what those are called. They had a long extension. Now those things would absolutely scare you. It was like going up into space. It killed your
Yeah.
equilibrium.
Well, they got kids now, things
You
now
never,
that would
you rode
scare.
on those, right?
I guess I did. I don't.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, John. It's been so long
Well,
since I went to a
I'd
fair.
go, John,
really.
but you know, if I went, the only
Even
thing
in
I could do
Disneyland.
is ride the
Yeah.
carousel, and then I'd probably get dizzy.
Get the man off the horse.
Right? I mean, so
Yeah.
so I probably won't go, but I was curious if I went.
We're rounding third, as Kurt Gowdy would say, and
Yeah.
heading home.
Exactly.
And Bob and Ray would say we're rounding third and
Yes,
being
sir.
thrown out
Yeah.
at home, which Kurt Gowdy didn't take well. But we will go into a tease because the next time around in a couple of weeks, we're going to go into Whitey Bulger. And we're going to start to, I'm going to tell you things about Whitey Bulger that anyway, that's a tease. They call that a tease.
You know things about Whitey Bulger that most people don't know?
Well, no, if I disappear in between now and
I
the
was
next show,
gonna
you'll
say.
know I do. I
was
did
gonna-
know.
Let
I
me
did.
say for the record,
Yeah.
all I know about Whitey Bulger is what I read. I don't know what he knows, but.
I
that's
thank
all.
you all very much. I want to go online shopping next time, charter schools we want to go into,
Yes.
who the Patriots hire for tight end, why they got him in the 4th round, how we got to the 4th round, what everybody else
Good
knew but them.
questions.
And so those are things we're going to bring
Very
up in the
good
next time.
questions.
And we will not talk about gun control.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you all for watching. We went
Thank you. It's been a pleasure
15
being with
seconds
you
over.
tonight.
We'll never hear the end of it. Mike will whine now.
Thank you.
Thank you. See, he will. He'll whine. Watch him.